A number of forces have shaped our moment. Joseph Schumpeter, the very articulate student of capitalism who taught at Harvard in the mid-20th century, once said that stabilized capitalism is a contradiction in terms. Change is ever present with us. And even within that postulate, if you will, or that truism, we are living in a moment of meta change. And as a historian of capitalism and of entrepreneurship, I think of, at least there are at least three moments of great change in the last 300 or 400 years of 300 years of industrialization. One at the middle of the 18th century in Britain, which really created the possibility of industrialization through technological improvements like the spinning jenny and the steam engine. A second one in the late 19th century, built on innovations like the railroad and the telegraph that built big business, that created the 20th century, that created consumer societies, not just in this country, but all around the world. And then our moment, which dwarfs both of those moments. Now, citizens and managers and politicians living through those past epochs thought they were living in times of dizzying change, in times when people had no attention spans and when people were, toing and froing and getting and spending, to quote Wordsworth. And you could say those same things about our age, but our age is bigger. It's bigger, the change is deeper, it's broader, and the drivers are wider in scope. What are those drivers? They're first, let's start with the basics of any kind of change, demographic change. We have enormous demographic change now unfolding around the world, both in terms of the places where population growth is increasing rapidly, the places where it's not growing, and what that means for the age distribution, and what it means for the quality and length of life for billions of people. So demographic change and environment and its marital companion, its bedfellow, environmental change. No other generation, no other epoch in history has witnessed the kind of environmental change on the scale that we are now witnessing it. No set of people has ever come close to what might be the production possibility frontier of Mother Earth, and we are close. Huge technological change. It began with the PC, or perhaps it began with the mainframe back in the 1940s, and then the PC in the 1980s, and now the internet, and corresponding breakthroughs in digital technology, in biopharmaceutical technology, biology. These kind of forces, now unleashed and accelerating in terms of their power, are unprecedented. We also have great social transition, not just in this country where we've seen what was the nuclear family really, just metamorphose. We've seen the nuclear family really change, like, from a caterpillar to a butterfly, if you will, or from a butterfly to a caterpillar. It changed completely in a couple of generations. What constitutes family? How many people are in a family? How do you keep a family together? Where does a family live? The basic nuts and bolts of our living units have changed and are changing. And again, that's happening in the United States, it's happening in Europe, it's happening in Japan. And what took 2 or 3 generations of massive social change and efforts on the part of women and men in this country is going to take less than a generation in places like China. Because as those countries have leapfrogged through technological innovations that took this country and European countries a couple of decades to develop and diffuse in those places, China will do in a relative nanosecond. So social change is everywhere, it's broad-reaching, it's profound. I think finally, we're living in a moment of great psychic change. There's a very articulate, elegant historian named Fernand Braudel, a French historian, who wrote in the early decades of the 20th century, and he wrote about sensibilité. He wrote about the sensibility of an age. What were the overwhelming, collective issues? What was the ethos? What was the zeitgeist? How was it related to practical and material life? If Braudel was alive today, he'd be writing about fear. Because when historians come to write about this age in grand terms like sensibility, they'll write about anxiety and fear as the overwhelming collective emotions around the world. And in a global world, a world knit more tightly together by many, many orders of magnitude than it's ever been, all those changes add up to just, again, an extraordinary moment of great, I think, challenge and of great possibility, and I think emotionally of much, much more fear than exultation or hope.